Hi, I'm Patrick Risley. I'm pastor and teaching elder here at First Presbyterian Church, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And welcome to today's daily devotional that we call This One Thing. And what we do is we go to the Daily Common Lectionary and we pick out a scripture from the reading of the day and tease out one thing we are to remember. This one thing I want us to remember today from Acts chapter 8, verse 1 is simply this: God is bigger than all the headlines. God is bigger than all the headlines. Our story today is a story where the deacon Stephen has been defending his Jewish faith and heritage and describing to the religious officials how Jesus is the manifestation of the ultimate dream that God had with the Jewish law, through Moses, the patriarchs, and he really schools the religious leaders about the meaning of what the Old Testament was pointing to. They didn't like that very much. So they took Stephen outside of the city gates and he was stoned. And chapter 8, verse 1 is a very pivotal piece in our scripture today. It really shoots down any notion of any type of prosperity gospel for sure. Chapter 8, verse 1, hear the word of the Lord. And Saul approved of their killing Stephen. That day, a severe persecution began against the church in Jerusalem, and all except the apostles were scattered abroad the countryside in Judea and Samaria. What a way to begin a chapter. There is Saul approving Stephen's stoning and death, condoning it, celebrating it. And then we read there's a shift. Persecution begins against the Christians. Persecutions begin against the church. And we see that today. In fact, we've seen that since the time of Jesus. The people of God are always hounded by the ways of the world. The people of God will always be ostracized, made fun of, mocked. The people of God through churches around the world have been killed, taunted, tortured. And I am reminded today of the many blessings that I have, that I was born at a place, at a time where I haven't had to face that kind of persecution for my faith. Years ago, I went with a seminary class to Eastern Berlin during the Cold War, when the Great Berlin Wall was still up and the Iron Curtain was still pulled very high. It was in the middle of January. It was freezing, and a group of us pastors stood out like a sore thumb, and we were pretty much followed everywhere we went when we were in East Germany and East Berlin. And we were there to study the church persecuted. What was it like to be a Christian in communist Germany? And we spoke with so many people. Their faith was vibrant, it was alive, it was tested. And we learned how the church moved underground. And people worshiped anyway, regardless that they may lose their jobs, they may be fired. Even in a communist country, you could lose your job. I came home fully aware of how blessed I have been, how blessed we have been. And I'm reminded during this time of year when the headlines are crazy and people are just not getting along well, that God is bigger than the headlines. God is bigger than any persecution you or I will ever experience. My friends, it was that underground persecuted church in Eastern Europe that rose up and brought down communism and brought down the Iron Curtain. Friends, we may feel persecuted at times, but God's in control. God is in charge of the headlines. You be blessed. I'll see you later this week.